Hey guys, welcome back. It's Ripe again, back with more family drama relationship stories. In this video, my crazy aunt demands I give my house to her useless, lazy son. Let's dive right into the video. So my aunt is the bare minimum of what one could consider family, but in reality is basically the only family I'm connected to by blood that is still alive. I am 32 right now, but when I was 8 years old, both of my parents died and I was left orphaned and thrown into the system. Usually, the government tries to place kids with family members, and for me, that meant going to live with my aunt and cousin. I had to sit and listen to a social worker try and explain to me that my aunt could not take me in and I was going to have to get placed with a foster family. That family turned into another one and another one. I was bounced around for about 5 years between foster and group homes until I found a place that stuck. I was a mess by that point and I did not trust anybody and had fallen through the cracks. My grades sucked and I didn't care about them since I felt like I was not gonna get anywhere in life. This foster family changed that and made me feel loved for the first time since my parents died. When I was 14, they legally adopted me, and without them, my life would have been a disaster. I got my grades up, went to college, got a BA, a master's, and currently slogging through getting my PhD. After a few years, I brought up the fact how I actually did have blood relatives still alive. It must have not been in my file, but when they asked if I wanted to see my aunt and cousin again, I told them yes. In my mind, it was going to be a nice family reunion. My aunt came over for all of 5 minutes to sit me down and explain exactly why I never got adopted by her. She told me that she flat out didn't want me or the responsibility of me. She was annoyed that I had found her again as a teenager and told me flat out that I was not related to her anymore. My actual family kicked her out after seeing her intentions, and that was the last I heard from her for a long time. 2 years ago, I purchased a house of my very own. I now had a good stable job and my credit was good enough for me to apply for a mortgage. Let me tell you that I felt like a real adult that day and proud of myself for how far I came. My adoptive parents also made sure I knew how proud they were, because despite being a legal adult, they are still a huge part of my life. Right after getting the house, I got a phone call from an unknown number and answered it to hear my aunt on the line, talking about how she saw that I got a new house and how good it looked. I didn't say much as I was just confused to be hearing from her at all. She rambled about my cousin and how he needed a nice big space like that. She still was not sugarcoating anything though, and flat out said that I should give my cousin the house because it's important to take care of the family, saying that it would be a good step to healing ourselves and becoming close again. I felt sick, actually sick the more I heard her speaking and demanding that I give up my house to my cousin. She really thought I would ignore her abandoning me as a child and then telling me as a teenager that I was not wanted or even family. My cousin is the same age as me and despite having more opportunities went in a totally different direction in life. He never finished high school because he couldn't be bothered to wake up on time or study, and my aunt, who doted on him, did not make him. He never got a GED or a job or anything since that time. So basically he was 30 years old, never having a job and spending his days sleeping, eating, watching anime and playing video games. As classic of an entitled woman my aunt is, I think my cousin is the real stereotype here. I of course told her that I was not just going to hand over my house because it was mine. I worked hard to earn it and even told her that the last time we spoke she said I was not family. I hung up, but it didn't end as I got a ton of texts, voicemails and Facebook messages either begging for the house or threatening that if I don't give it to them, they will take it. Sprinkled in was them pretending that I was still family and saying that I should care about them, and if I'm the one talking about how family is important and abandoning them is wrong. I wanted to get even with them, and my cousin was also the kind of idiot to post things online that he shouldn't be. I did not even need to dig that deep to find that my aunt was lying on her taxes in order for my cousin to receive benefits that he did not even qualify for. My cousin does not make a cent and there's no way he pays money to my aunt in the form of rent. On her taxes though, she claims that he pays her rent. He is able to show that he pays rent and is under the poverty line in order to get free healthcare and food stamps. I would not mind if they were struggling, but my aunt is loaded and they are just screwing with the system. I report them to the IRS, which out of government agencies is one of the top ones you don't want to mess with. By the way guys, props to Al Capone for showing us that you should not mess with the IRS. He is probably the poster child for this. Anyway, I personally think that I would rather deal with the FBI than the IRS. I also saved a lot of text messages they had sent me in which they said a little bit too much, talking about how they were going to forge a deed to the house and take it from me if I didn't just make it easy and give it to them. Also, any of the ones that mostly came from my cousin saying that he was going to shoot me or him and his friends were going to F me up. That all went to the police, where I wanted to file for an order of protection against my aunt and cousin. This also meant they were not allowed to constantly call and text me anymore. They would be notified by police who also were trying to get a warrant to see if she really had a fake deed or guns in the house. While there was no deed, they did find a handgun that my cousin owned but did not have a license for. It was taken away and he was fined. I didn't feel bad about any of the things I did to them because of the way they had spent my entire life acting towards me. Mainly my aunt, but the little I saw of my cousin was enough for me to determine the kind of person he was. I had a family now that I might not share any blood with, but I feel 1000 times more connected to them than those two jerks. I got my home now, and after 2 years of living in it, I still love the feeling of independence. I once spent 6 months living in a house with more kids than room for beds, and now I can lay in a queen bed and have an entire kitchen and just breathe. After years of everything bad, I can just breathe and enjoy my life. And now we got an update to the title story. It reads like this. The police investigation, spurred by my report and the threats my aunt and cousin made, opened up a can of worms. So it turns out tax fraud was just the tip of the iceberg. My aunt, it seemed, had a knack for bending the rules and sometimes outright breaking them to get what she wanted. The handgun they found at her place, well, it was unregistered and linked to a string of petty thefts in the area. My cousin predictably crumbled under questioning and sang like a canary. My aunt, now facing charges of tax evasion, possession of stolen property, and contributing to the delinquency of a minor, finally lawyered up. The lawyer she got was not some hotshot though, more like a tired bulldog who knew he was dealing with a losing hand. He tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecution, smelling blood in the water, was not biting. The trial was short and brutal. My aunt, used to getting her way, seemed genuinely shocked that her usual tactics of playing the victim and blaming everyone else were not working. The evidence, thanks in part to my cousin's testimony and the text I had saved, was too damning. In the end, my aunt was found guilty on all charges, and the judge, clearly not impressed by her antics, threw the book at her. My cousin, considered more misguided than malicious, got off lighter with probation and mandatory community service. He ended up having to get a job, a real shock to his system, but one that, according to the probation officer assigned to his case, was doing him some good. The fear of them showing up at my doorstep vanished, and I focused on my work, my friends, and my life. And the next one is titled, Am I the a-hole for having a one-night stand 6 months after my husband passed away? My husband was my best friend and my soulmate. We started dating at 16, got married at 20, and he passed away about 6 months ago when we were both 22. I've been absolutely distraught, and I'm still really close with his family, especially his mom. She told me starting a couple months ago that even if it was hard, I should at least try to start dating again. So yeah, I've been trying to go out for the last few weeks but had not had much success. A lot of people are put off by a 22-year-old widow. Who would have thought? Well, last night then my friends wanted me to go out bar hopping with them and I just couldn't do it. So I went to this coffee shop that is open late and I was just doing some reading instead. And then this really handsome guy started chatting me up, and it turned out his wife had passed away about a year ago. It was so nice talking to someone who just got it. We were showing each other pictures, I started crying and he reached for my hand and eventually we started making out. I had not kissed anyone since my husband and I'd never had sex with anyone else, so I surprised myself by asking him if he wanted to come back to my place, to which he said yes. 30 minutes later, we were in bed having intercourse and we did it a few times last night. It felt so good and it was so nice to have that physical affection again. He was also so sweet and loving and really took care of me. This morning though, I'm feeling horrible. It's 6 AM and I'm writing this in my living room as he is on my dead husband's side of the bed. I feel like I'm violating his memory. I'm having coffee with his mom today and I don't know how to look at her in the eye. I know I have to get on with my life, but I cannot believe I had a one-night stand. I don't want to be that kind of girl. Am I the a-hole here? And here, Ripe Stars, I'm very curious what you have to say about this story. Do you think OP is being an a-hole here, and should she feel guilty for what she has done? Interestingly enough, and I'm kind of conflicted about this, Reddit was really torn on this story. There were a lot of people saying that she is the a-hole, and equally as many saying she's not the a-hole. Either way, let me know what you think about the story in the comments. A user in the comments said, "Who says it has to be a one-night stand? Maybe you should talk to him this morning and see if he wants to do something today with you, and maybe see if this can turn into a relationship." OP responded, "Yeah, that's a good point. I'm just so out of practice." Another person commented, "Sounds like you two hit it off, and maybe he could be a good match since he knows exactly what you're going through and you can both help each other move on and deal with the past when needed." OP then said, "Yeah, that's a good point because it's really hard to explain to other people that my husband will always be my soulmate. He said he feels that way about his wife too. I really hope she'd be okay with what just happened." Another person said, "You found someone who understands what you're going through and both comforted each other and connected. You have not done anything wrong, it could turn into a relationship, it's okay if you're not ready for that too though." Update to the story, wow, okay, I didn't expect that last post to the traction that it did. I really appreciated all the love and support that it got from y'all. So basically, I got a lot of DMs asking for an update, so here you go. A couple hours after I posted, he and I had a long talk about what happened. It was his first time being intimate with someone other than his wife too, and by the way, he had told me about his deceased wife first. We both felt guilty, but we also had an amazing time with each other. We mutually agreed that whatever form our potential relationship/friendship takes, our spouses need to be a core pillar of it. We looked at each other's wedding photos, his wife was absolutely beautiful by the way, and talked about our favorite memories. After that we kissed goodbye and he left. I might get some pushback for this. Not only did I get coffee with my husband's mom, I told her about my night with that guy. She is honestly like a mother to me. She's been really worried about me, and while I'm sure there was a part of her that didn't like hearing about that, she seemed genuinely happy for me. I think it took some stress off her shoulders since I know she regards me as a daughter. Her approval, along with the support from y'all, made me feel a lot better. He texted me a few hours later asking if I was free for the night. I said yes, and he told me he was on his way over. He showed up with flowers to take to my husband's grave. I was sobbing out of sadness and also just how touched I was. We went and sat there for about an hour, his arms around me crying and talking about him. We then went and did the same for his wife. We went out for dinner and had a really nice time. He's honestly such a gentleman. We stopped at my apartment on the way back to get some things for me, and we spent the night at his place. His wife had done interior design and their home was absolutely beautiful. She seems like she was an absolutely wonderful person. I know this was bold, but I was feeling really good after the day I had had and the response I'd gotten on here, so I had packed my wedding night lingerie and was wearing it on the bed when he got out of the shower, and we had really electric and passionate intercourse all night. I felt so much freer than I had the night before. He took me to church the next morning, which was everything for me. After that I told him we should take a few days apart, not because either of us had done anything wrong, but just so we didn't move too fast. He was a little surprised but totally respectful of it. We have texted each other a few times and I'm sure we'll be seeing more of each other as friends at the very least. Honestly, I really want a relationship with him and I can tell he feels the same. I just want to make sure we are both ready for it. Thanks again for your support. And here, Ripe Stars, I gotta say that was a really sweet ending, and I hope that OP and the potential new boyfriend stay as happy as they are now. What a sweet turnaround. Anyway, the next one is a petty revenge story. And by the way, if you haven't already, please don't forget to like the video, comment, and maybe even subscribe to not miss any of my daily videos. This one is titled Revenge on Landlord. A few years ago, we were in a small 2.5 bedroom apartment. The landlord basically never talked to us, we paid on time, and kept everything neat and tidy. Well, one day, his lordship decides he wants to sell the place. That's no problem. He wants to give the place a bit of a paint, also not a problem. He told us that he would be sanding the walls of the staircase. The main area of the house was upstairs, downstairs had a bedroom, office and garage attached, and that would be that. Well, fine, no problem, off you go, but instead of stopping at the top of the stairs, he decided to carry on one of the walls that led into my son's room. Had we known he wanted to do this, we would have done what was necessary. However, we didn't know, and so every inch of my son's room, his clothes, carpet, bed, toys, the lot, were covered in a very fine dust from sanding the painted drywall. It took hours of wiping down and vacuuming to get it back, and he had to sleep elsewhere for 2 nights after his breathing and skin suffered. I mentioned this to the property manager, who was an absolute delight to work with, and she said he would advise him that he would need more details about what work he wanted to do. This seemed fine. He then wanted to come back and do some painting. Again, that's not a problem, it's value to the house and looks better, etc. However, he told us he would be there for 4 hours. 8 hours later, he decided that was enough for the day and called it. That night, he messaged me saying that he wanted to come back and do more painting the next day. I said that didn't work for us, was not enough notice, didn't allow us peace of living, etc. And he then tried to claim that in our contract, the tenancy contract he called it, it stated that we must allow him to complete projects in a timely fashion, and if I were to decline him entry, then the cost of the rest of the project and its completion would lie with me and be my responsibility. So I sent his text, it's always nice when people lie to you in writing, off to lovely property manager again, who called me and said not to worry, she would sort it out. Well, about a week goes by and I get a text asking very nicely if I would allow them access in a few days to complete the work. Well, no problem, his lordship and a pal arrived to carry on painting and were there for another 8 hours. However, this time I don't think they took any pleasure in it. My PC is next to my PS5, so on my PC I put on Tiptoe Through the Tulips on repeat for the full 8 hours. Max volume. I just popped my headphones into my controller and gamed all day long. After 8 hours, his lordship comes up the stairs and into the lounge, it is open planned, and said, with great strain and weariness of a man worn down, that they had finally finished. Without breaking eye contact with my screen, I said, okay, bye. And he just hovered for a second before shakily walking out. As soon as I heard the front door close, I turned the music off, and no doubt it was for you, big boy. Don't lie to people, especially those who can, read a contract. The next one is titled, My Mother Stole My Money. So I am 19, female, and I had only been living with my mom for a good 3.5 years. I was put into foster care at a young age and don't remember living with my mom at all. Before moving in with her, she would tell me how great it would be for me to live there and how I would be treated with respect and yada yada. Well, since I started college, things went to crap. My whole life I wanted to go to college for art, but my mother convinced me that it was stupid, so I chose to go for a business degree. I got into my state's Business and Marketing Honor Society during my last year of high school for having a 98 average in all 5 of my business classes. My first semester of college, everything started out fine, and then the end of September hit and I got a reimbursement from the financial aid. Let me add, my mother is on SSI for minor disabilities and has not worked in the past 18 years. She has arthritis and fibromyalgia, so apparently she cannot work. I got public assistance that I never knew about since I was never allowed to do paperwork for anything. I thought we only got food stamps, but apparently she lied and said I was paying a couple $100 for rent so she could get more money. So she was getting nearly $500 a month for my needs. I never got anything unless it was Christmas, and $350 a month for food stamps. My boyfriend had to buy me food because I was never allowed to eat at home and did not want to get a $3,000 meal plan on campus. Anyways, I got a healthy $2,000 back from financial aid, which I originally planned on spending on clothes, since I had not had a pair of fitting jeans since I lived with my mom, a laptop for school, and food. Well, apparently, every time I get money, it belongs to my mother. She demanded I give her most of the money, so I spent 1.5k on some jeans for me, a brand new PS4 system, PS Vita, PS Plus, and a bunch of PS4 games for my boyfriend. I know that sounds reckless of me, but he's paid me back for it. She was pissed and belittled me till I gave her the rest of the money for rent and bills and food. She then went off and bought her boyfriend drugs. I was mad because obviously that's just not okay. I just pushed through the semester and kind of sucked it up like I usually do. February came and pretty much the same thing happened. She demanded my 3k, I got more his past semester because I only had to pay for one textbook, to pay for rent, electricity, the Wi-Fi, food and everything under the sun. She got mad when I refused to give her more than $350. I then went off and spent the money on my anniversary, including outfit, gas, 2 meals and some gifts, a new phone, my phone barely worked and was 7 years old, and prepaid my phone plan for the next few months. I also bought myself some food for when I was home. She was irate. How dare I spend money on my boyfriend and not the woman who birthed me? I tried staying away from home as much as possible, driving around with my boyfriend for the most part, but every time I came home, I would get yelled at. Well, March was when crap hit the fan. I needed my Medicaid card, they put cash assistance on that card for convenience, and the birth certificate for a program that helps people get jobs in the area, and she was not having it. Apparently saying I needed them was being rude and disrespectful. I ignored her for the most part and kept insisting that I needed them right away because I had to leave. She gave them to me after half an hour of me telling her I needed to leave and just started yelling at me. So I left for a few hours and I got a call from my caseworker asking when I would turn in the timesheets. I had to get a signature from each teacher stating that I was in class to keep my insurance benefits and the food stamps. I did not know about the cash assistance. And she told me I could lose the cash assistance if I didn't. I asked her what she was talking about and she told me I got approximately $500 a month to pay for rent and other things I needed. I informed her that I never knew about that and she was very upset that my mom was using the money on God knows what. She told me to change the pin on the card and to not let my mom touch it. So I changed the pin on my card, went home and my room was torn up. My clothes were everywhere, my old laptop was missing, my Christmas gifts from my boyfriend were gone. I was very upset. I told my mom that I wanted my stuff back and she just threw everything at my door. I started packing my bags because I was done with her garbage and she demanded that I give her my Medicaid card back since she keeps everyone else's. She got in my face, threw my glasses onto the floor, tried throwing my new phone and was just screaming at me until I gave it to her. I have post-traumatic stress disorder, so I panic whenever someone is even slightly loud. Afterwards, she went to the store and tried buying something with it, and she came home and started shoving me around, demanding I give her the pin. I was just like my father. I was a piece of crap for buying jeans that actually fit me for once in my life. I was trash for liking the presents I got from my boyfriend and not from her. I got pants that were 2 sizes too big and very low-rise for Christmas, etc. She actually hit me because of it and hit me until I gave her my pin. So of course I was dumb and I gave it to her. Someone for some reason called the cops and they showed up shortly after and her boyfriend started telling them that I was abusive and manipulative and a pathological liar. I showed them where she hit me and tried explaining that she took my Medicaid card, but they did not care. The cops never care because supposedly my mom's boyfriend has put half of our local police force into the hospital. After the cops left, my mom said that my boyfriend, who has done nothing and has only been supportive of me throughout this, was a creep. I'm a year older than him and that he was not allowed to enter the house again. Then she said I had a new curfew of 6 p.m, I had a class that ended at 5 and it took me 2 hours to walk home, so that was stupid, and if I left the house I was to never return. So then I left. My boyfriend took me to a homeless shelter specifically for teens and young adults that were in abusive situations and had nowhere else to go. I then got my own apartment with the potential of getting a roommate at some point, and I honestly have never felt better in my life. The following day, I go to get a new card and my mother had taken out $260 at 5 a.m. with the help of my oldest sister. I had $4 to buy food for 2 weeks before I could apply for my own food stamps and cash assistance case. Most of the time I only had water and I would eat every 3 days at my boyfriend's house. When the virus situation hit, his dad refused to let me over even though he knew what was going on to a certain extent. I did not eat anything for a week before being able to get food stamps. I wish I had gotten a job, but having 8 classes, one of which was 6 hours a week for a measly 1 credit, took up the majority of my time. The college suggested I withdraw to focus on my mental health. I was afraid of leaving my new place because I didn't want to be attacked by my family or my mom's boyfriend's drug addict friends. I went from seeing my therapist for half an hour every other week to seeing her for an hour every week. She suggested that I cut contact with my mom permanently, even though it meant losing a good $3,000 worth of stuff I bought myself over the past 12 years. I got paid to babysit and take care of the farm while in foster care, and I was so upset about losing all 40 of my stuffed animals. They really meant a lot to me, and they kinda were the only things here that helped me calm down from a panic attack. I know it sounds immature, but I've had most of them since I was about 8. Then something popped in my head while I was applying for my own food stamps and cash assistance case. The revenge. I realized that I could easily report my mom for welfare fraud. Not only had she been taking my $500 a month, but she had lied and said her boyfriend and her did not share food and were roommates, so she paid to use other people's food stamps. And she sold her food stamps for cash to buy fast food or drugs. So I did just that. I went to our state's website and reported her fraud, adding when she took the money from my card at 5 a.m. that one day. I went into detail, gave the exact location of where she did it and everything. I said she used other people's cards all the time, which was true, and how she demanded my card whenever I had it. A couple weeks later, I get a letter from the Department of Social Services, DSS. They accidentally sent it to my address instead of my mom's, thinking she moved along with me. I open it and I read that she was denied public assistance, denied medical insurance and denied food stamps. She met the requirements for getting them, but because of my report she lost everything but SSI, as far as I know. What probably helped was that I told DSS that she stole my card and requested a new one, and the lady at the front desk was mortified. I found out that she took the money out later when I set up the card online and saw all previous transactions for the past year. She is out $850 a month, more than her SSI, and out of health insurance which was paid for by the state, all because of me, and I boasted about it to my therapist. My therapist actually congratulated me because I'm very shy with people, so to report something like that was very unlikely of me unless you got me very angry. Not sure if this was appropriate here, but it took a lot out of me to be able to even do it. Thanks, anxiety. Edit for update, my mother's boyfriend apparently passed away last weekend, probably something to do with his cocaine addiction, so she is now out another $800, $500 food stamps and all the rent to own stuff in his name, which consists of 2 recliners, a 60-inch TV, fridge, stove and 2 laptops. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again tomorrow.